experience of living with disability from my father-in-law, Frazier Robinson. At the age of 30, Frazier was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. For the next 25 years, as his condition progressed, he carried out his responsibilities to his family with grace and dignity. My wife, Michelle, has told me about the hidden toll it took on her family, the added burden on her mother, the complexity of planning even the smallest family outing to avoid the barriers they were sure to encounter, the uncertainty of the family's future. Frazier's story reinforced some simple and indelible lessons, that we must build a world free of unnecessary barriers, stereotypes, and discrimination, that policies must be developed, attitudes must be shaped, and buildings and organizations must be designed to ensure that everyone has a chance to get the education they need and live independently as full citizens in their communities. And that every nation has a special responsibility to look after those who can't live on their own, because everyone deserves to live with dignity and respect. The U.S. should lead the world to achieve this vision. But 17 years after Congress enacted the Americans with Disabilities Act, America's leadership has faded. As president, I will restore it. We'll start by ratifying the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. But we also have work to do here at home. First, we must provide Americans with disabilities the educational opportunities they deserve, which is why I support full funding of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and expanding college opportunities for students with disabilities. And we can't wait until children arrive at the schoolhouse door. We should screen all infants for the full array of potential impairments and set a national goal to rescreen all 2-year-olds. Some conditions, like autism, don't appear until age 2, so infant screening is not enough. And to meet the needs of the growing numbers of Americans with autism, we need a comprehensive approach that includes not just screening, but early intervention, research, and education services. Second, we must end workplace discrimination, something I've fought against as a former civil rights lawyer. I strongly support the ADA Restoration Act to overturn those Supreme Court decisions that wrongly narrowed the ADA. And my administration will lead the way by hiring more federal employees with disabilities and encouraging private sector companies to do the same. Moreover, if we're serious about bringing more Americans with disabilities into the workplace, we need to sign universal health care into law, which is what I'll do by the end of my first term. And with the growing number of veterans returning with combat stress disorders and traumatic brain injuries, we should ensure that we are providing the resources to address these conditions. Finally, we must support independent, community-based living for everyone who chooses it. That's why I'm proud to support the Community Choice and Class Acts. And it's why I will expand access to assistive technology as president. Together, we can build a world that's just and inclusive for all. Thank you.
All right, let's review today's episode. The most important thing to remember is that autism has no cure, and scientists currently do not know what causes it, so because of that, they can't really solve the problem. The only thing they can do for autistic children right now is therapy. There are many kinds of therapy that are being used that we've already talked about, and these are just a number of ways that America is trying to help autistic children. The problem is they're not getting funding, and therapy is extremely expensive. One of the controversial bills that we already talked about was the Virginia bill, Virginia Bill HB 1588. This bill is really controversial because it's trying to raise money and funding for therapy through insurance companies. And this is extremely controversial because insurance companies are afraid that this will put extra strain on their business and drive them out and essentially bankrupt them because the therapy is extremely expensive. But without the therapy, the costs are very, very high. An autistic person throughout their whole life can be expected to spend about $3 million, and that's a lot of money. So that's why they want the therapy funded for. So you can see why this creates controversy. So it's still up in the air, but on the White House, the politics and politicians are working very hard to try and find a way to compromise with this. which is very difficult. But until then, politicians and even public figures are stepping into the spotlight and trying to help raise awareness on autism and get money for it. And now, we're going to show you a message from Patricia Heaton. You might remember her as the wife from Everybody Loves Raymond. Enjoy.
She won Emmys for her star turn on Everybody Loves Raymond. Now the mother of 4 boys is lending her political clout to the fight against autism. Teaming up with Cure Autism Now, Heaton is pushing Congress to free up legislation that would dedicate nearly $1 billion to the cause.
Autism is a disability that is not that well understood. And it's important to get federal funding because this is affecting children across every socioeconomic level. It's not dependent on race or where someone is financially. This is hitting many, many, many American children. There's a wonderful bill that was just passed unanimously in the Senate, Combating Autism Act, and it's gone to the House, and even though it has a majority of support in the House, there is one representative, Joe Barton from Texas, who unfortunately is standing in the way of getting this bill passed. We need to get politics out of the way here because there are people's lives at stake, and these families are really, I have met so many parents whose kids have been affected by this, and it's heartbreaking, and yet I see these parents and they are so strong, and they are fighting for their kids, really fighting for their kids, and that's why I'm here to really beg Joe Barton to pass this bill, because it has the support of everyone else, and I think he needs to do the right thing.
Congressman Barton's office says he also wants more money for autism research and prevention, but adds, we want scientists picking their own priorities instead of having politicians and activists dictate them. The activists will be walking on Washington next week to make their case. And now, the Sunday Fun.